Hey everybody, my name's Debbie. I'm an alcoholic. Hey. I wasn't anyone you wanted to be around before I got sober. I'm really happy to be sober today. I did not know that it would. I mean, I'm amazed, and I'm not even halfway through. But I just wanted to get out of the consequences. But already, the quality of life I have, from my heart to my friends and everything, is just, it's beyond my dreams. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. My sobriety date is February 7th, 2015. And it's not the first time I came to AA, but that's the one that seems to be sticking. That's the one I'm paying attention to and I'm remembering today. My home group is Carthage Common Cause. I found that meeting early and fell in love with it immediately. We meet at the Methodist Church on McReynolds on Wednesdays and Sundays, and it's in the basement of the church. Both open meetings. One's a discussion and one is a literature study. Please come and see us. I have a sponsor, and she has a sponsor, and I also sponsor women. And it's a real privilege. It's a real gift to be able to work with other people in the program. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about what it was like. Well, I hope it's a little bit. I tell you, I didn't. It took 57 years for me to get here. I've gotten here before. I didn't stay. So I have a long trail of consequences and bottoms, but I'd really like to get to the recovery part because it has been an amazing 10 years and change. Okay, so, yeah, I came in when I'm 57. I'm 68 now, and I feel about 18 years old on the inside, but that's okay. They say that happens. Born to a family of 4 in the Midwest. I was the youngest. Father's an alcoholic. I can say that because he eventually came into AA himself and called himself that claimed his seat in these rooms. Very alcoholic, dysfunctional home. It was, from all appearances' sake, it looked good, but there was a real lack of connection. There was abuse. It wasn't a good place to be for this kid. I didn't feel safe. I didn't like it. From a very young age, I didn't want to be a part of my family. So that is something that started when I was really young, and by the time I was 14 years old and I found that first drink, it was the elixir. It was the manna of the gods. I mean, it was exactly what I needed. I was already so full of such stress and anxiety from the failure to fit in, not knowing who I was, where I belonged or anything, which you don't really know who you are as a kid, but not knowing where to be. But I really needed that. It was exactly what I needed, and I blacked out the first time. So, and I didn't have that much to drink, so I'm an alcoholic. I feel I had the irritability and the lack of contentment as an alcoholic before my first drink, then the first drink, and boom, I'm off to the races. And I'm young, so it's hard to get alcohol, but I found lots of different ways to adjust my feelings. So I am definitely an alcoholic. AA is where I got sober, but I also somebody that would seek out anything that made me feel different. So I'm also a recovering addict, and I think that's important to say. But I was also, I was somebody that I wanted to always, I got obsessed with fixing my feelings with whatever I could find. But that was in between going to school and being a good kid, I was a pretty good kid. I got good grades. I was a babysitter. I volunteered. I went to the Y. I did a lot of things to try and better myself when I wasn't seeking ways to change the way I felt on the weekends. And if my friends didn't have alcohol, perhaps the babysitter's house did, or it didn't matter, because it was all about me, very self-centered. I'm not feeling right. How can I change the way I feel? I look back on that now, and I was just so obsessed with changing the way I felt. Down the road, I would eventually wind up, even though I was still doing well in school, my consequences from drinking got to the point where I would go into my first psych hospital. They didn't talk about drugs and alcohol, but they kept me there a long time, so I was really, looking good and had my stuff together when I came back out ready to try life again. It's interesting how that structure, was really good for me. Not being at home and being in that place, I seemed to thrive. But as soon as I got out again and into the real world, the anxiety and needing to fix the way I feel. So that's the way it was. I graduated high school actually as a patient in a psych ward, and eventually went to college because I'd gotten good grades. I earned a scholarship and I was going to art school. But I wasn't very well prepared because I'm very immature. I've got all this anger and rage I've never dealt with. I'm blackout drinking on the weekends, but holding it together during the week. And I don't know that's alcoholism. Nobody talks about alcoholism or addiction or anything like that. It's just Debbie has behavior problems, but she pulls it together and she gets the job done, but watch out for the weekends. But all this really retards any emotional maturity I have, so I'm not fit for college. Maybe I am scholastically, I'm not emotionally, and so I drop out after a couple semesters, and I wind up back in a facility, with, because what's wrong with Debbie? Debbie's got behavior problems, but she's also I have behavior problems when I drink. I can pull it together in between, but the consequences are getting pretty serious. What's interesting, though, they didn't have AA meetings at this place, but I found a table of pinochle players, every afternoon, and I know they were alcoholics. I felt very comfortable with these people. We didn't do meetings, but I learned how to hold all those cards that you have to hold to play pinochle. And I wasn't home. I felt comfortable in that group of people. Well, I got cleaned up and straightened up and released out into the world again. Changed my situation, all about the geographics. My dad believed in geographics, did the geographics. I learned that from him. So let's move, let's get a new job, new surroundings. And that's something else. I wasn't a daily drinker. So, and I thought, perhaps if I was a daily drinker, I would associate that with alcoholism or something like that, but I didn't. I could hold it together until the weekend, and then I couldn't. But I also, like if I got into a new situation, a new relationship, new friend, new town, new job, the stimulation and the newness of that would distract me enough that I wouldn't have to drink for a while. I could manage. I could perform until I couldn't, because if I got monotonous and bored and didn't like, it got old or irritable and restless, and that alcoholism starts cranking back here, which I don't know I have alcoholism. That's when I drink. But I didn't have to do it every day. But I did it enough to have a lot more consequences and found myself in another facility. And this time there were AA meetings on Fridays. But this facility, I did not know, I was not interested in finding out what was wrong with me. I'm just like, okay, so I got a little out of control, put me over here, cleaned me up a little bit, locked me up for a while. It seems kind of normal at this point. And that's the really crazy thing about it, is that I think that's normal. I think that I'm in my third facility, and I think that's surely what other people do. I'll get out eventually. We went to AA meetings on Fridays, sat in the back, didn't listen. It was one of those treatment centers where I don't recall talking about drugs and alcohol during the week, but I do know that, the boys would look at the girls would look at the boys, and it's just all about coupling, and the focus wasn't really where it should have been. If I was going to get sober, I wasn't ready. But I did leave that place with a husband. I did. I did. I did, but I have to tell you, we made it 14 years, and this crazy, not crazy, this alcoholic, insane alcoholic, the newness of all that, I was able to, we didn't go to meetings, but we had a non-drinking life for a long time, and I acquired a wonderful stepdaughter. I learned how to be a farm wife. I learned all these different things that were stimulating and different to what I was doing before. So I didn't really think about drinking and using because my environment was different. The geographic, baby. It's all. I'm always about that. But with his daughter from his first marriage came child support, so we were kind of broke. We had to move into the city off of the farm and start earning real money, and then we were just exposed to things where we eventually found ourselves drinking again, and life was, it was just like, oh, we're not liking this. So we moved to North Carolina, and that's how I got down here in the 80s. And that was all exciting and stimulating and different too. So I didn't have to drink. I didn't have to numb myself or find anything for a long time because the excitement of this new geography compared to Indiana and then the looking for the job and meeting people. When I'm stimulated intellectually for a while, I can manage until I can't. And then the boredom and the monotony settles in. Or all that settles down, the dust settles down, and here I am with me, and I'm carrying all this underdeveloped, immaturity with me. This the resentment and anger at the family that I never dealt with. This lack of knowing how to have cohesive relationships because I leave. I don't know how to do all that, and so when I find my next alcohol and substances, it's off to the races again. Still married though. This time I get to do outpatient, and I have real real counselors. You guys might recognize these names: Dick Corcoran and Keith Lewis. And they had outpatient over in Fayetteville, and I had to drive from Pine Bluff to Fayetteville every day, Monday through Friday. And I had to drive like in a $300 Datsun because, filed bankruptcy, and we didn't have any money. Filed bankruptcy, this is the unmanageability. It all started with this washer we bought at Sears, and the interest rate was really high, and we never caught up with it. So the only time we ever filed bankruptcy, it's just like a couple $1,000s, but that's a lot of money to us. But that's just, we don't ask for help. I don't know what I'm doing, so. But this Datsun got me there and back, and I remember finishing that outpatient treatment 4 weeks, and Keith Lewis and Dick Corcoran looked at me and say, "Okay, Debbie, because you finished, you do the last of that, whatever." I said, "Now they say we think you're ready to go inpatient," and I said, "No, I don't think so. I have a husband. I just can't. I'm in trouble already. Family's looking at me, so I can't." But they knew that I had one foot out the door. They knew that I was there for, because my consequences were being brought up by people around me, not so much me, myself going, "Oh, this doesn't feel right." Up till now, it's everybody else looking at my consequences and saying, Debbie needs to go away for a little bit. But no, but I did manage to join the Wilder Building meetings, and I got to know some very fine people, and I wound up, I can't tell you what that sobriety date was. You'd think I would, but it was sometime in the 80s. I picked up my first chip down there, and I wound up getting a 5-year chip. And then, by then my marriage was dissolving. I had a sponsor, but I had one foot out the door. I was concerned about my husband's program more than mine, not looking at myself. I was so surface. I was so locked down, so absolutely locked down. It's crazy that, all that, and I'm still not getting it. But my husband and I, we parted on good terms. It wasn't a terrible situation. He went his way, I went mine, and I went to school. I did really well. I stayed sober. I wasn't going to meetings. I was too busy for meetings. And I got an associate's degree over at the college, graduated with honors, and I did all that sober, clean and sober, but not going to meetings. And then I moved to Raleigh for a job. And I forget I'm an alcoholic, or I don't, you know it, but you know, I'm not doing AA. I'm not doing AA. You fixed me up for a while, so you let me loose again, right? You know, you got me all cleaned up and straightened up, and we're on let her go. Let's see how she does now. Well, she did pretty good. Had a great, wonderful job. I got a degree in landscape gardening, and I had this wonderful position with this wonderful company in Raleigh. And then for the Christmas dinner, for the Christmas party for our group, we went out, and everybody got Long Island iced teas. And I said, oh, okay, I'll have one too, to be part of. I don't want to look weird. And I blacked out and had to leave my car there, and it was on. And there weren't any, seriously, well, that's shameful. That is shameful for me. But there weren't any more shameful consequences to that night that were going to come. But had to leave my car there. My coworkers, you know, I had these new people, right? Because that's the beautiful thing about geographics. You got a whole new audience. They don't know what you did before when you lived over there. You know, they don't know anything about that. And so it's all these new, different identities. But so that changed the way I flowed and operated around at that job. I didn't drink much. I decided that I should change to other things because that wasn't working well very. You know, and that's another thing I would do if drinking got a little carried away. Well, let's put that down and let's pick up something else for a while, because we don't have a problem with that until we do. Well, I had that job for a couple years, and I didn't have good. It was a great job, but my relationships with my coworkers weren't good. But I can tell you, I had no good relationships with anybody up to that time. The fact that my husband and I lasted as long as we did was miraculous, and I think his daughter was a big deal about that, because she was fantastic, and she got to stay with us a lot. And that, to me, that's a power greater than myself, that whole situation happened. But that still is a blessing in my life. Anyways, so that job, I was not digging the vibes I was having more drink and blackout scenarios with my fellow crew members, and I was not. The shame was getting deep. You know, it's probably up to my eyebrows now of all my whole life, everything I've been doing. And I get an offer for another job. And sure, I'll take it. I'm not really sure what it is, but it's different, and it sounds exciting, and it's a sales job. And I'd be placed in a vehicle and sent around to promote this new product to the industry. And I said, yeah, I'll do it. I didn't know, but, somebody that has poor self-esteem, an egomaniac that cares only about how she feels and how she's doing, but an egomaniac with very self-loathing, and now my job is to go introduce myself to strangers on the daily, lots and lots of strangers, and develop relationships and get you to be interested in this product I'm selling. And it was pretty stressful, but I did it. Maybe the beauty of it was it was always in a different city, and I was always talking to new people, but I don't know. I guess, and maybe it was the lack of intimacy. I'm always talking to strangers, so I'm not having to develop close relationships, because I'm absolutely not good at that. But I did pretty good at that job for a while, until restless irritability and discontent started building up in me. Of course, the job is getting older. I stayed there 25 years, 16 drunk, 9 sober. But I didn't like my bosses. I wasn't getting the respect I need, the money I need. So, I needed some relief, and I wasn't drinking, but I was doing other things. I know this is AA, but this is important to my story. So I was smoking weed, to try and relieve this pressure, this high pressure of this job and life and everything. And the problem is I have a company car, and they random test, because you get to drive a car. And this is just how, we go to any lengths, don't we? So I'm like, well, I did already flunk one test, and so I'm in trouble for that. But I can't go back to drinking. I don't remember why, but I can't go back to drinking. So I need to keep doing this. So I go to the lengths of buying synthetic urine that's clean and pocket warmers and wearing clothes on the daily that I can be ready at all times for a spot P test. That's a lot of anxiety, people. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. And I wonder why I'm having so much anxiety. But so that worked until it didn't. I don't know, I got tired, I couldn't do it anymore. It was too stressful. So I went back to drinking. And now we're going to start getting close to getting sober. Drinking, but drinking on weekends. I've moved down to Moore County again because my mom is here and she's getting older, and I'm so responsible. I'm so capable. But I am. I'm the kid that she's going to rely on to take care of her if her health goes south. So, and I'm also a very immature 40-some-year-old lady that still wants her mommy because she's never grown up before. I've always been very proud that I didn't mooch money or material things off my family, but I did. I stole their emotional comfort, not knowing what. I mean, just in hindsight, looking at everything that I did, I stole their peace of mind. The first times that they put me in facilities, I thought that was punishment. They loved me and thought I was going to die. But no, that's not the way I read it. But anyways, I moved down here, and I bought a house, first one by myself. I didn't know anyone. I did it all by myself, but I got this house, and it was a very stressful transaction. And then 2008, the housing bubble and all that, and my pay is cut, and I'm hating my job, and I'm like, oh, I got to do something. So I start drinking on weekends, and I start drinking every weekend, and I'm not doing the other. Because I can't go back to those pocket warmers anymore. That's just way too much. But this is the thing, so I'm working Monday through Friday, out on the road, and by Thursday I'm thinking about what am I going to drink? Is it in the house? And I've also got a doctor that's giving me some pills for sleep because these hotels are hard to sleep in. It's really my anxiety. I mean, I'm just my stress and anxiety, and I'm just all I'm all getting all planned up for this drinking that it's going to begin on Fridays. That was my week. That was my life. Work Monday through Friday, start getting blackout drunk on Friday, and see what I wake up to on Saturday or Sunday. And I did that for a while. Problem is, I like to drive when I drink too, and blackout drink, and it's a miracle. There's so many miracles, people. Number one, that I love AA and I want to be here, and two, that I never killed anyone in the car. I've killed a lot of cars, but I've never killed anyone in a car. But I spent a night in jail in Kentucky before I was old enough to drink, and I spent another night in jail in Indiana before I was old enough to be convicted with a DUI, but I got my first real on-paper DUI 2013 because sometime in a blackout I thought I needed to go to the store, and that occurred not far, within a mile from my house, somewhere on 15501. I don't know where it is, but I can tell you, I know I drive by it probably umpteen times a week. and I'm very grateful to go by it sober. That was very humiliating, I tell you what, but it wasn't going to get me sober. I was more concerned with what people thought. I was more, I had enough money in the bank for an attorney, for a good attorney, and for God knows what reason, I think I was good at my job. When I was sane and not drinking, my boss went to bat with me, and I did not get fired for practically totaling a car and getting a DUI. But I had to go to court and had my license taken away. I was on restriction and all that stuff. And you know what? I was pissed off about it. It took too long for them to fix my car. I had to rely on other people to take me to the store. And then, but I couldn't let my mom take me to get wine. I didn't want her to know I was drinking again, but I'd call a cab to take me to go get alcohol, while I'm on restriction and don't have a car from a DUI. That makes sense. And all the time, but my employer tasked me with this project to do at home, which I successfully did, but I just I was just angry and resentful. Look what life did to me. Look at this. It's probably my parents' fault that this happened. Who knows? But, and I didn't learn anything from that. I did not come to AA. I didn't. I got out of, I did the court thing, I hang my head at work, I'm carrying the shame around, and I'm going back to work. And I should be really grateful that I have a job, because I don't have a lot of money in the bank. I'm not good at saving money when I'm drinking and not thinking about the future and at all. Yeah, they made me wait while they fixed that car, and it was a totaled car, but they made me wait until it was glued and taped back together, and I had to drive this rattly thing around, and I was I deserved a good car, didn't I? To drive, this is just this underdeveloped, immature, all about me, alcoholic, and she doesn't even know what's wrong with her. I would sort of hold it together for a while, and then in 2015 I drove again, drink with I don't know, I can't remember. It was a blackout, but I was at the recycling center taking wine bottles back, and I didn't get a DUI. But I did get a hit and run on property. I damaged some property and came home. And they found me. They didn't find me for a couple days, so I didn't get convicted of a DUI. There's a mixed message there. It's like, Debbie, is that really the kind of, you got out of that one, but Debbie, it's just, should you have gotten out of that one? I did have to go to court. I was looking at 30 days of jail. And so I did come to AA. I did come to AA in 2015. That weekend, folks, the recycling center weekend, it was another blackout drinking. And I tell you, these blackout drinking, so I'd start drinking on Fridays. By Sunday, you know how you feel. You're hungover. If there's something left, a little hair of the dog. And then Super Soul Sunday would come on TV, and I'd watch Oprah talking to all these spiritual people about changing their lives from the inside, and I'd order books and I would cry and I would think, yeah, I want to do that, but then I wouldn't do that, and then I'd wind up doing the same thing next week. I didn't know what was wrong with me, but this time I knew I'm going to court, and no, I don't know I'm an alcoholic, but I know that I probably need some AA under my belt if I'm going to go in front of a judge. So I come down to the Wilder building and I get my white chip. And I asked a few people to be my sponsor, because I remember that's what you did before. People said no. So and I find out there's meetings in Carthage, and so I find my home group, and immediately got a sponsor. And this is where it gets kind of fuzzy for me, because I I can tell you that I was not in the mood to change. I just had more consequences that needed to get ironed out, and I had a mortgage I couldn't run for. I couldn't run this time. I had a mortgage. I didn't have my own car. I had this company car, and I can't run. I don't have that much money in the bank, so I have to stay. So I start commit to going to AA meetings, and at Carthage Common Cause, immediately this God, this higher power, this Creator, loves me so much. It puts a person in my life to be my AA buddy, and she's new too, and she's like, good, we can go to meetings together, and I'm like, all right, and so we just, so it's just bam, bam, we're going to meetings every night. What else am I going to do? And I'm looking at a court date, and then another person is in the room. She spoke here. No, she's not here now, but Linda Carlson was going to Carthage, and someone said, do you have a sponsor, Debbie? And I said, no. And Linda says, I'll be your sponsor. I said, okay. So these people, you didn't jump on me, you didn't pounce on me, but you did just the right thing to make me want to come back. Linda was just the perfect person at that time. It wasn't just perfect. And then my AA buddy, it's like, we're gonna, her husband was in the military and not around, so she was wanting to hammer these meetings out too. And I'm like, okay. And I start going to enough meetings that I start meeting people. I didn't have any friends. I don't have friends. I have customers. I have acquaintances. I have dysfunctional family. I started meeting people, and I started identifying with the way your funny escapades that made me laugh, and then the feelings that you had, and then someone I don't know, somehow someone asked me about what was going on with me, and I'm going to court soon, and is anyone going with you? No. And so these two ladies go to court with me. I don't know their last names, but they go with me, and they sit on either side of me. They don't tell me what to do. They're just there for me. I'm not used to this kind of selflessness. Just in time. So I go to court, and I don't have to go to jail, but I do have community service. And I do have this new group of people that I want to be around, because for some reason I feel better when I leave these meetings. So I keep going and I keep going. But see, I don't know if I was just so anxiety ridden that I wasn't hearing clearly, but I wasn't completely signed in as I am an alcoholic, because I drank differently. I thought there was something wrong with me as a person, and drinking and using was just a side effect of that. I mean, look at my past, look at all the places I've been or put or all that, there's something wrong with Debbie. I didn't know that if I came in here and got sober and worked these steps and formed relationships with people like you, that all this would start unpacking, and all these broken, what's wrong with Debbie issues and things would start coming into the light, and I'd be in a safe space now to start talking about it with individuals. Not maybe in this, I'm not going to tell you guys the big stuff, but, for my sponsor, and my close friends, I have friends, and these relationships that include respect and space and boundaries and vulnerability. I never knew what that was like. But you offered that to me. You didn't corner me and tell me I had to do it. You offered it to me. You showed me how you did that. And I needed you guys. I mean, the first 5 years of sobriety, my mom went from mom to a nosedive into a delirium dementia that was very aggravated and required the healthcare POA and the daughter to be on point nonstop. And I'm also at a point in my job where it's like, it's amazing they haven't fired me. And I want, I'm wanting to do a good job. I'm feeling some guilt at taking advantage of them. and I need this job because alcoholics don't save a lot of money. So I needed the job, and I needed help with all, so I'm juggling mom and I'm juggling the job, and then I come to the meeting and my sponsor says, Debbie, you're not putting AA first. And no one out there would be able to say something like that to me and get away with it because you don't criticize me. But in these rooms, I don't know, she could say that, and okay, I took that, and I heard that. Oh, my poor home group, my first 5 years, it's all about me and my family, and he said, and she said, and all this, and you don't understand me, but you taught me how to be, they taught me how to turn and do that with the next Cocoa Puffs person like me that comes in the room. But they showed me compassion and understanding. But it doesn't mean they allowed me to hijack the meeting. There was one time, I had shared a discussion meeting and I had these problems. I always had these problems to share. And then after the meeting, you all remember Phil H. And I went up to Phil. I knew him from years ago. We worked at the same place in Aberdeen a long time ago. And I'd say, Phil, but you don't understand, blah, blah, blah. And he put his hand on my shoulder and said, Debbie, this is why we take the mess to our sponsor and bring the message to the meeting. And why, you can say that to me. He could say that to me. I'm so defensive still. I'm still this, I'm an overly sensitive and defensive person, but you folks, the very last stop on the street, out of everything else that didn't work for Debbie, what's wrong with Debbie? This is, I will listen to you guys. I work in the steps, so my fourth and fifth step, I'm in my first year, and everything's going so fast. I don't know if I'm an alcoholic. I say it, and I'm not drinking, I'm staying sober, but it's going to take a long time and more identification for that to happen. But I do my fourth and fifth, and I had a hard time using the big book for that. But what I did was I did a chronological. I just started writing, hurts and things I did and things they did and blah, blah, blah. And I wrote it until I was done writing at that time. And I shared that with my second sponsor, and on hindsight, I don't know how much responsibility I took or how much I really revealed, but I told her some things that I hadn't told anyone before, and she didn't chase me out of her house. She didn't look horrified. We're still friends, very wonderful friends today. Trust. I didn't trust anything until I got to AA. And I'm just a work in progress. I'm working on trust now. So that's what that was, and so that was my fourth and fifth, and 6 and 7, I don't know, life's going fast, the job, the mom, and everything. I'll look at my character defects eventually. Well, they will show up, won't they? Because I stayed, and I decided I wanted to stay. I know I'm an alcoholic by now, and I'm starting to want friendships and relationships with people, but I don't know how to do that. I don't have boundaries. I still want to be in charge. I want things my way. My feelings are still up here. I have too many buttons ready to push and everything. So the beauty of that is that I had to run into my character defects, one defect or shortcoming at a time, and a faux pas with a relationship, saying or doing something wrong that I would have to make amends to. That is how I work the next steps. I did do formal 8 and 9, but a lot of people I owe the amends to, I don't know where they are, their last names, because of all my geographics. But I do that. I work on that with my journaling. I work on that in prayers and meditation with my higher power and in my intentions to want to grow and change, and sending out loving and kind thoughts to these people that I ran over years ago, not literally, but emotionally. that I need to make amends to, but I don't know where they are. 10, 11, and 12 are like the really, I love that. I've had the opportunity to be in a history group with some folks and do some deep dives into this with people you know, Jim Martin and Joe and Jeff, etc. And that was, that helped me, you know, not only solidify that I know I'm an alcoholic, but in learning all those things and what this fellowship has gone through to even get to where it is today. My roots are growing deep, and I know that that's a really wonderful thing. I have roots today. I've never stayed in one place this long. I want to be in Alcoholics Anonymous. But how I'm managing to have some peace and happiness in my life today is 10, 11, 12. I never understood 10, 11, 12. Okay, you continue to do an inventory. Got it. I'm not perfect. Step 11, that's I don't know, but I would continue to go to Step 11 meetings and learn what other people were doing. And then 12, carrying the message. Well, I've learned a thing about carrying the message is you got to carry the message. You know, it's not going to come to you. I got to put myself out there. It also helps if I'm in a good spiritual state, because I've discovered if I'm spiritually not doing well and I'm miserable and thinking all about me, I'm not going to attract anybody that I can help. You know, nobody's going to want to talk to me. But I do spend a lot of time every day. A lot of time. I have dedicated time every day to 10 and 11 and 12, and I am trying to seek a relationship with this power greater than me. It's all in hindsight when I see all the blessings and all the saves that I have been on the receiving end my whole life, and how much and how over time as I begin to open up and I begin to heal, how I feel about myself changes. I didn't know that was going to be a thing. I thought I really didn't know what was wrong with Debbie. I obviously couldn't function in life in many different scenarios. But I wasn't dead, so I may as well do this. And so, but I did not know that I would have days and evenings where my heart was light and I was very good with where I was at the moment, and not wanting, not needing. Listen, I've got all the character defects, but I just never knew that I would be okay in my own skin. I have a lot of work to do today, but my relationships, that's where I learned that. This is not a selfish program, or it is a selfish program, because I've learned that I am on a daily reprieve of staying clean and sober, but my thinking needs to be addressed on the daily. You know, and that's where 10, 11, and 12 come through, the relationships, the being forthcoming, talking, being vulnerable, and moving in closer with my relationships with other people. I learn who I am by hanging out with you, and you, and my personal relationships too. And that's where I learn the strengths that I have, the assets I have, and all the stuff that I still need to work on. I am so grateful to be sober. So thank you very much.